Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Tasty Tidbits podcast. Get ready to receive rich, well-seasoned, and tasteful tidbits to transform your life. Each week, Dr. Tiffany comes to you with inspirational encouragement and thought-provoking interviews to help revolutionize your walk with God. Are you hungry for more of His presence? Then get ready. And now, your host, author, intuitive life coach, and pastor, Dr. Tiffany Watkins.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Tasty Tidbits. I am your host, Dr. Tiffany Watkins, and I'm so excited to have you here on another episode. And I'm so excited to have a special guest with us today, Patrick Casey, because, you know, this is something that I think that we all need to talk more about, and that's supporting men who struggle in silence, because there are a lot of men in the world that deal with a lot of issues and behaviors and things that go on in their lives, but a lot of times we don't take the time to find out what's really going on inside a man's heart, what's going on. And so Patrick is here to talk to us about that a little bit today. But before we get started, I'm going to let you know a little bit more about Patrick. So Patrick has gone through the process of sobriety and years of recovery, as well as seeking many different avenues of assistance. And it has allowed him to uncover what has been underlying his self-destruction actions and the nature of his misguided beliefs. He is an advanced registered nurse practitioner who has transitioned into personal coaching. In addition to his 6 years of experience working in the substance abuse treatment, he is dedicated to providing men with a structured approach and an environment where they can be vulnerable. And so thank you for being a part of the podcast today, Patrick. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Dr. Watkins. I appreciate being on here.
Yes, thank you so much for being a part. Now, before we get into this and into our discussion today, just let the listeners know a little bit about, give them an overview of your story and how you recovered and you went through your recovery.
Sure. So a little bit of the demographic background. I was born in South Florida. I'm the oldest of 3 children. I have 2 younger sisters. My parents were married. They later got divorced when I was in my 20s, but I grew up in a together household. But there was drinking, there was, violence, there was abuse. There was, I wasn't the easiest child to raise for sure. I was definitely a big pain in the butt, but, some things you would say were warranted. Some things weren't warranted as far as discipline goes. So, I had a very confusing childhood, and really the overall arching theme I would say of my childhood is that I felt unsafe. I used to say I was confused, but I would now say I just didn't feel safe. So I spent my entire childhood looking for people and ways to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel whole, right? And so unfortunately, I did find that eventually, somewhat through being a class clown, because any attention is good attention. I was in trouble all the time, playing sports all the time, having that camaraderie in sport events. But then it turned into smoking cigarettes at 10, 11 years old, and then marijuana at 11 or 12 years old. And it just progressed all the way alcohol. And eventually I found myself at 18 years old, injecting heroin, shooting up heroin IV, which, if you knew me and my upbringing and my family, like, where the heck did that come from? So that's what happened. And basically, my parents left me in charge of my sisters one night after I'd been trying for about a year or so to get clean and couldn't really do it on my own. They left me in charge of my sisters one night and came home from their bowling league night on a Friday night back in August of 2002 and found me passed out on the couch, belt, needle, heroin, spoon, everything. Looked like a little junkies palace there basically, but it was in their living room, which was very uncharacteristic of me. So I think I kind of manifested this event to happen because I had been wanting to ask for help. I've been doing those foxhole prayers, Dr. Watkins, like, God, please save me. God, I don't want to feel this way anymore. God, help me. I just didn't plan for it to go this way. I'd been trying a long time to figure out, how do I tell my parents I need help? Like, I don't want to tell them I'm shooting up heroin. Maybe I tell them I have a, issue with pain pills, because they'd caught me with marijuana, alcohol. I'd gotten in trouble with school with whiskey and weed at school. So they knew I was kind of like doing a bunch of dumb stuff. So basically they sent me off to rehab. I got clean, had a whole bunch of awesome mentors in my life, a bunch of really good people. And eventually I found myself in nursing school and then eventually in nurse practitioner school. And then before you know it, I transitioned out of working in the emergency department and working in substance abuse, which, as you read in the beginning, I've been doing for about 6, going on 7 years now. So it's kind of a natural fit that I was going to help other people who suffer from drug and alcohol addiction and mental health disorders. So kind of that's kind of the long answer about what got me to that point. And then what
Mm-hmm.
happened was a couple years ago, I hit my own, another spiritual bottom, another emotional bottom, and I got help through a coach instead of a therapist, instead of medications. I tried a different route, all the while maintaining my spirituality and keeping my sobriety and helping other people get clean from that aspect. And I was introduced to what coaching is and how good it could really be. And my coach, JJ Flazanes, got me in touch with a bunch of childhood traumas and core wound stuff that I thought, wow, like this is humongous. Here I am, 19, 20 years sober at the time, thinking I'd already done all this work and thinking I should be good and going, God, why isn't this gone yet? God, why isn't this better? Like I should be this, that, and the other. On the outside, everything's perfect, but on the inside, I was still broken. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of stuff we're going to talk about, I struggled with as recently as 2 years ago in terms of the anger, the irritability, not feeling quite right and taking it out on other people. And I thought, well, heck, I should maybe look into helping other men with this instead of just helping men who are in recovery from drugs and alcohol. What about other men who don't have those addiction problems who also need help like I did? And so I
Mm-hmm.
figured I want to try this coaching thing. So I do still work as a nurse practitioner. That's my full-time job, but I also do a lot of the coaching aspect too, which is starting to build up more and more and more. And I'm really enjoying that aspect because a lot of women, like you probably know, have husbands and
Mm-hmm.
boyfriends, sons and nephews, and they all say, man, I wish he would just come talk to you. And hey, I got somebody for you to talk to. And I'm like, Absolutely, send them my way and the stuff we're going to get into, but you can't force them to get that help. So,
Right. Yeah,
so
that's so
that's
true.
my long answer.
No, that's true. And when you were talking, I was just kind of thinking about some things, and even in the field when I work in social services, and I was on the police academy, and so they kind of in the area where we are, drugs is a real big issue right now, and even across America, it's just a very
Hmm.
big issue. And one of the things is that a lot of people, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, but a lot of people that are actually, have gotten addicted to drugs, they do it in order to try to treat a mental health a mental health issue that they're dealing with, because maybe the medication that they have is not necessarily working for them. But when they medicate with drugs, it seems to kind of give them some type of relief. Do you agree with
Absolutely.
that, Patrick?
Absolutely. Yeah. We call it's an escapism. It's a numbing. You're numbing the pain. You're numbing the traumas. You're finding a way to you're just desperate to change the way you feel. And that's how I felt as a kid. I felt like everybody else had this manuscript on how to just be a person, how to be a friend, how to go to work. Like they had the manuscript, how to be a good student. And I felt like, where's my instruction manual? I'm like looking all around, like where, like mom, dad, did you guys like not put that in my crib when I was born? Like where is that thing? And so I had to kind of figure this stuff out. And so I had to fall on my face a bunch of times. But yeah, it was just a desperate clinging event over and over and over again just to be okay. It wasn't even really about being high and all that. It was just managing. I was doing these things just to manage, just to try to be normal with the rest of you people. So it wasn't like I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to be above you. I had to work so hard just to try to be equal with you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's good. And we were going to talk about this today, and just why men struggle in silence. But from your experience and the men that you've worked with, what are some common self-destructive behaviors that you've observed, among men, and why do you feel that they continue to engage in these practices?
So a lot of them, men and women both are equal as far as doing destructive things. I think for men, gambling is going to be probably more of a higher prevalence, especially with sports, and then especially these days, right? Because now you have the gambling books. You
Mm-hmm.
can just gamble from your app at the
Right.
drop of a hat. You can just gamble right away. So now you don't have to lurk in the shadows doing it. So it's a lot easier. And I think it gives you that payoff of that excitement, that dopamine, that adrenaline hit that, if you're frustrated, you're not really happy with your life, which, if you don't have a spiritual connection to some kind of belief in a higher power, you're going to go
Mm-hmm.
looking for that everywhere. So sex is another big one, using other people for that
Mm-hmm.
for that connection, which I think is what we're really looking for, is that soul connection, but we mask it as, well, it's just sex. I'm just having sex. It's not a big deal. I'm not hurting anybody. And then you have, isolating, I think is another very big self-destructive pattern that us men do. We like to isolate. We like to push everybody away. I would also say controlling. We can be
Mm-hmm.
very controlling, and we try to mask that as we're just trying to help people and tell people, try to fix people and to do things, but really we're controlling, and that's coming out of a, low self-esteem, insecure event. And working in child services and
Mm-hmm.
things you've been through, domestic violence, the
Yes.
the abuse circle, it's always, whether it's the man or the woman, whoever the perpetrators or persecutor, they're usually the ones that are very low self-esteem. And so they hurt and abuse the other person. Whereas, like, a guy that's got it together, he's secure, he's not going to be jealous, he's not, he's going to let you live your life and do your thing, and then we're going to come together and live a whole life. But if I'm insecure, I don't like myself, I hate myself, I don't trust anybody or anything, I'm going to take that out on everybody else. So I think those are very common forms of self-destructive behaviors. And then,
Mm-hmm.
I can't really say, Dr. Watkins, that alcohol or drugs is more with men or more with women, but I think those would
Right.
be the ones that probably are more inclined to be with men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you were talking about something, and it really kind of stuck out with me, you said isolation.
Hmm.
And that was really kind of interesting because we see a lot of times society, for the most part, men are supposed to work hard. They're out front, they're the leader, that common thing. But for you to say isolation, it just kind of shocked me a little bit with isolation. But I believe that happens a lot. Talk a little bit more about that as far as isolation.
Yeah, well, again, maybe I go to work, I put food on the table, but then I'm done. You got the kids, you do everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go sit on the couch. I'm gonna go hide in the garage. I'm gonna go work on the car, whatever it is, because I need my me time. So,
Right.
I think I'm being a good husband and a good father because dang it, food's there. We're not behind on our bills. So what else do you want from me?
Right.
Meanwhile, I'm missing out on the children, or I have very short patience with the children. I'm barking at them, I'm yelling at them. I have no patience whatsoever. It's just safer for me to just be by myself. And then it also gives me an excuse to tell, the person I'm with, well, isn't everybody happier if I just leave everybody alone? Like, would you rather me yelling at everybody and be short-tempered, or would you rather me just go in the garage and do my thing?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, yes, go away because you're either being violent and hostile or you just don't exist. So
Mm-hmm.
I think the isolation part is big, again, with men and women, but I think with men, we kind of can justify it if we're doing some of these other things that we think the old school patterns of being a father and a, breadwinner allow us to make excuses to behave in certain ways. So, and I see it all the time, with my own family members, extended family members that complain to me about their spouses, and people I coach and people I've known for a long time. It's the same story. I mean, as well as I do, look at the divorce rate, how high it
Mm-hmm.
is. And
Mm-hmm.
then the second time people get married, somehow that divorce rate statistically is higher than people who get married one time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's
That's
just
so
a
true.
it's just a pattern. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then, that's where we need to be honest about seeking help. Both women and men need to be
Yeah.
honest with ourselves and begin to seek help. And that leads me to my next question. What is the reason that you think that it's difficult for men to confess that they're struggling and they refuse to seek help sometimes?
I think it's biology. There's I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Bruce Lipton wrote a book called Biology of Belief. It's about
Mm-hmm.
epigenetics. So he has a lot of really cool stuff that he talks about. But one thing he talks about is, men, we're kind of engineered to be the hunters, right? To be the
Mm-hmm.
warriors, to battle. So how can we go to war and battle and, basically shoot another man in the face and then feel bad about it? So we have to find a way to compartmentalize that and to put that away. So I can't go to war killing other people and then feel bad about it and have empathy about it. So it's kind of our natural, ingrained biology to not do that. Or if we do, what do? We stuff it. We stuff it. We stuff it. We stuff it. We pour alcohol on it. We gamble.
Mm-hmm.
We,
The sex you talked
use
about earlier.
people, everything. So we
Mm-hmm.
stuff that down. So and I think the other thing in addition to that is really poor role modeling. I think a lot of us don't have very good masculine and male role models because of the generation, right? So I think it's going to get better as the younger
Mm-hmm.
generations are coming along and seeing more of the importance, right, of men and women being more equal as far as like household chores and things like that. Women are have careers and are independent now. It's a lot different than, our parents or our grandparents were, that whole mindset. I didn't see
Mm-hmm.
my dad ever cry, ever talk about feelings, but he worked his butt off. He was
Mm-hmm.
very funny. He was comical. He was always there with us. We always played games and watched TV and sitcoms. And, I used to go landscaping with him and playing soccer and ball. So like we did a lot of stuff together, but I didn't get the I love you, I'm proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw him cry, watching a show or something, or have a deep, heartfelt conversation, unless it was, hey, Patrick, you're really screwing up at school, or, your principal called us again, something like that. Otherwise, I didn't really have that role modeling. And so where do we get our role modeling? We watch sports, we watch movies. So, and as kids, boys, what are we watching? We're watching action movies,
Mm-hmm.
killing movies, sci-fi, and you're not seeing a lot of role male models that are like crying and getting emotional. So I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
big part of it. And then obviously, again, it's getting better. I'd see it getting better, but for the longest time, you had to be the macho cowboy, and you don't cry in front of people.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. And oftentimes, we see men that, are struggling, they're quiet and when they're hiding, like we talked about earlier. But as women and children, even as children and women, what can we look for that they might be dealing with insecurity? What are maybe some signs or some things that we may look to notice for that they may be dealing with some type of inward hurt that we could look out for to be more sensitive about?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think if you're seeing the patterns change, just like you would if you had a kid and you're suspecting, wow, maybe they're getting into drugs or something, like why is the behavior changing? And it's something obviously more than hormonal for a teenager, but if there's something more going on with them. So it's like looking at seeing, are they isolated like we talked about? Are they a lot more grumpy and grouchy than they used to be? Is their patience and tolerance of things just pretty much non-existent? Right? So those kind of
Mm-hmm.
things we want to look out for. And then, have they let themselves go? Have they put on a bunch of weight? Do they eat like crap all the time? Did they pick up smoking? Are they smoking more cigarettes than they used to? Are they drinking maybe a few more beers after work than they used to? So common things that we would see, like, this isn't really right, honey. Like this isn't the man I married. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Or
Mm-hmm.
this isn't the son I remember having. Like things are changing. And so it's about when we see those things to try to find a real loving, gentle way to point that out and say, look, I just want to come to you. I'm concerned. Is there anything I can do for you? How can I help you? And it's sometimes just being a quiet role model, just
Mm-hmm.
doing the next right thing, keep doing the next right thing, living a good life, cooking healthy foods, saying this is what we're cooking for dinner, and try to like change the patterns they've been doing. Maybe if I'm exercising, I start inviting the guy to come exercise with me.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a woman and I'm married, to a man, and I'm saying, hey, babe, I just got a gym membership. I'd really feel more comfortable if you came with me a couple of days a week. So try to invite them, because as men, as you know, Dr. Watkins, we want to help. We are
Yeah.
helpers. We are fixers. We don't
Yes.
listen. We don't listen to you tell us stuff in the way that we want to understand. We listen to you because we want to fix you, or we want to fix your problem, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you come home and start telling us about your day, we're not listening to go, oh, babe, I'm sorry you had a rough day. It's, well, did you think about doing this? And maybe they were thinking this and they should do that. So as women helping the men, it's about kind of flipping that without making them feel like you're trying to fix them. Because the moment I start feeling like my woman wants to fix me, the walls go up and I'm like, what are you doing? You think I'm broken? Like, I'm fine. Everything's good. So I think it's about being a quiet role model and then inviting them to do stuff with you. Like, hey, I was thinking maybe we should just take a stroll around the neighborhood after dinner a couple nights a week and just kind of get out, get some fresh air. So like little things like that you can build up on. And then maybe eventually offer some resources. Hey, I really heard this really good podcast this guy was on, or I heard about this coach, or, my friend was seeing this therapist and it's really helped their marriage out really well. Kind of figuring out like, are you happy? Like, are you really, really, truly happy? I know that you want to lead with compliments, Dr. Watkins. You want to say, I really appreciate that you work hard. I really appreciate that, we never fall behind on our
Mm-hmm.
bills. I really appreciate that we've been together for so long. We have so much love for each other, but things are changing, and they're not the way that I had envisioned when we first got married. So, I'd like to get back to how we were. And for us men, we get complacent. We get lazy and complacent, we stop surprising our women. We kind of take things for granted. We do that whole, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want? I don't know. What do you want? Instead of like taking the masculine lead role and saying, "Hey babe, put on something nice. I want to take you out for dinner tonight." Well, where are we
Mm-hmm.
going? Oh, you'll see when we get there. Just put on something nice. We'll go check it out. Or hey, let's go see a show. Well, what show? Well, it's something I think you're gonna like. Let's go, and you just surprise your women. And so sometimes women might have to take that role and do that because, maybe for whatever reason, the man has kind of fallen out of the masculine energy space and he's more in the feminine space where he is being a little more needy and he does need some extra help and support. So it's about
Mm-hmm.
kind of figuring out where that is, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's what I like a lot of the work I've done the last couple of years is really understanding masculine and feminine energies and how those things work in polarity. Because I was married before. I was
Mm-hmm.
married for 4 years. We were together for 10, and 4 of those years were married at the end. And I was mean. I was angry. I was irritable. I was not right. I was everything I'm telling you about. And I
Yeah.
knew it, and I just couldn't help it.
Mm-hmm.
Slamming
Mm-hmm.
doors, putting fists through walls, silent scorn treatment. And I vowed to never do that again. And now I've been in an 8-year relationship, which is complete opposite of all of that. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not it's not necessarily that she was to blame for it. It was me. And I know that. It was my trauma, my childhood stuff that I was taking out on her. And so I learned from it. And unfortunately, some of these men might have to learn like me the hard way. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes women do need to give them the ultimatum to make them kind of look up and go, oh crap, I really need to make some changes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just, we don't need to be miserable. We don't need to
Right.
be in relationships that are not fulfilling anymore. I believe we all deserve to be super happy and joyous and free and just full of love and just compassion for each other. So
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult. It is difficult, but it's something that if we find a way to gently point out to the person in our life, I think if they're ready, they'll hear it. And
Mm-hmm.
again, maybe we just check in with them on a regular basis, just check in periodically, but show some consistency that we care.
Mm-hmm. Patrick, and I was thinking about that, what you were saying, and even on the flip side, it's a little different, and I know you can attest to that and explain that. When the person may have an addiction,
Hmm.
because it's totally different because now the individual has an addiction, they're struggling with it, quietly, or the family may know and they may want help, but they continue to resort, to isolation. What are maybe give us an idea of, in that way, how can we support, them in helping them to become better, as well as to show them that we are there and not the enemy?
Man, it's really difficult. That's a great question. Yeah. I mean, the thing is they have 12-step programs based on this. They have Al-Anon, they have Nar-Anon, they have ACOA, which is Adult Children of Alcoholics. So they have programs for people who are not the alcoholic, who are not the drug addict, and the whole purpose of these programs is so that the family member or friend, the loved one of the person that's struggling with this addiction can find a way to be okay, whether that person continues to drink or be destructive or not. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's the important part because that person may never stop. But how can I still feel okay, go about my day, whether you're drinking or not? Is that
Mm-hmm.
possible? And that's what it teaches you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just like a lot of the faith-based stuff that we learn and grow up with, it's like we
Mm-hmm.
can still be okay. We have a higher power, we have support people around us. And hopefully, again, by being an example, that other person will start to follow. But I think it
Mm-hmm.
goes back to again, trying to help, just trying to help point out, you know, what is it that you think these the substance thing that you're doing is actually doing for you? Because obviously this is doing something for you. It's numbing something, it's helping you not think about something, it's helping you escape from something.
Mm-hmm.
Is it tempering your rage? If you weren't doing this, you would be more rageful or less rageful. Like, what is it that this substance is doing? And then how can we find an answer, a solution to help you get to that feeling okay point without using that substance. And that's what all these other, these rehabilitation centers are for. Church, for some
Mm-hmm.
people, does the job.
Mm-hmm.
Going to help other people who are less fortunate. Sometimes just invite somebody, hey, let's go feed the homeless today, or hey, there's an event, a fundraiser event going on, or a cancers. We have this like 5K cancer children with cancer event that happens all the time. Like, invite them to go do something that is a meaningful, useful thing. Because a lot of times with addicts and alcoholics, we're feeling useless. We feel like we don't have a purpose. We don't feel useful. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes if we get almost kind of nudged towards doing something to be of service to mankind, sometimes it opens up and we go, wow, that felt really nice. Even
Mm-hmm.
though there might be a whole lot of crud and garbage on top of it, sometimes it can penetrate through that armor and go, wow, yeah, something really good is happening here. And so maybe we go do it again. And so it's about, again, inviting them to do some of that stuff. It's definitely super difficult, and it's about finding that love and way to point out to them,
Mm-hmm.
do you realize what you're doing is not healthy, is destructive? So I think it depends, obviously, case by case. So it's good to have somebody. It's good to have a coach or to have a therapist or to have a really good friend who has experience, because it depends, right? Dr. Watkins,
Mm-hmm.
is this a volatile, hostile, violent person? Is this
Right.
nephew? Is this a son? Is this like, what kind of situation is this, that
Is it a dangerous situation
how
where
aggressive can I
yeah.
be or not, basically,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah. But that's good, and it sounds like as well too that for the caregivers or those that are on the other side, they need support as well. So you have to have support so you can support those that are going through the issues that they're going with for that particular time. And throughout what you've been talking about, you just have to have a loving heart and you have to be caring and
Mhm.
understanding and empathetic. Those are things that we have to be because, I always say our issue may have not have been addiction, and it may have been, or it may have been alcohol, it may have been drugs, but everybody has some type of issue that they have
Yeah.
to go through and deal with. And so nobody's issue is bigger than the other person's issue. We have to learn how to be compassionate with that other individual and be that supportive system as much as we can and do what we can for each other and let the person know that you really love them. So I think that's very key as well.
Yeah,
But
it's when they start, and if they start making some good progress, and say they're hanging out with their sober friends, or if they decide to do like a 12-step thing, if they're going to meetings a lot, they're not home as much, but they're not using that substance anymore. It's about having some compassion too and going, okay, well, I'd rather him be home a little bit more and this and that, but what he's doing over there is working right now. So I don't
mm-hmm,
want to let my selfishness get in the way of that, because
right.
if he goes back to doing what he was doing, all of this goes away anyways. So I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather him be out at night, going to some 12-step recovery meeting type of event or something. If that's keeping him sober, and he's changing and becoming a better person, I'm going to be patient with that and not demand that he spend more time at home with us, because eventually that's going to happen. Because as he gets better, he turns around, he becomes more spiritual and about helping people. He's going to eventually direct that back to the home life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, Patrick, now, after going through your recovery and things, you now have your life coaching. So, let the listeners know a little bit about the type of coaching that you do, and they may be interested. Some men may be listening and interested
Mhm.
and want to know a little bit more about you. So, tell them a little bit about it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. So I do coach men and women, but my main mission objective is to help primarily men, because everything we just talked about, this entire last 20, 30 minutes we've been talking, it's all there, right? Because if you're
Mm-hmm,
a guy like me, you want to talk to another guy who's been through what you've been through. You don't want
mm-hmm,
to, maybe you've tried therapy, maybe you've tried medication, psychiatry, stuff like that, self-help books. Because like for me, I tried all of those things. And so it was like me getting sober, it was having sober mentors who had been through what I've been through, because it's always easier to have somebody that's been there rather than somebody who read it in a book or got a degree in it, but they don't
mm-hmm,
have the actual life experience, right? So it's a little
mm-hmm.
bit easier. I can show you the way out of this darkness because I've actually walked it 1,000 times, instead of like I just read a book about how to walk out of
Right.
it. So it's easier that way. So and I do it's a lot of Zoom coaching, because that's the cool thing about technology. Now we can do it all over the world. And
Mm-hmm.
I was a little skeptical, because like the lady I worked with, I met her at a live event in California, and I live in Florida, I'm like, well, how the heck is this going to work? But it worked. We met up. We had like group things we did about 4 times a year, but all the coaching was over Zoom like this. And I had
Mm-hmm.
breakthrough after breakthrough after breakthrough.
Wow.
And I saw, and as a nurse practitioner, I do telemedicine stuff too. So I know that you can make it work. You can be personable. You don't have to be robotic. So I know that works. So
Mm-hmm.
that was something that was really cool for me. And I have a lot of the tools and techniques that I learned that I want to be able to share with other men about, receiving compliments, self-love, trying to get over irritability, worry, insecurity, rage, anger, all those problems that a lot of men struggle with, that maybe if you're like me, you feel like, well, where the heck can I go to this? I can't talk to my woman about this. I don't want to scare her off or make her feel like I'm a softie or something. So it's hopeful to have another man to talk to. So that's that part. And then I'm on Instagram. I have a website. I have a couple free online courses that you can watch that are videos where I talk about a lot of this material. So it's been really helpful. I have a Facebook group for men support. If you live down here in South Florida, I also have a meetup group that I started where us men meet locally about once a month or so to get together and kind of go over a bunch of stuff. So it's cool. Some things are free, some things are not free. So you could always try your hand in all kinds of stuff. I have a lot of free resources that I offer on my videos too. So it's a good starting point for people. And then if you're a person who has a guy in your life who's struggling, you could get a lot of benefit out of these too, because now you can take this material and share it with the person that you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to help.
Mm-hmm. And listeners, we'll have the information as well about Patrick on the podcast, so you can click on his links and be able to go directly to him and find out more information about what he does. And if you know of men that are struggling with drugs and alcohol, I say all of us know someone that is struggling with some type of addiction, and just being able to lovingly, say, maybe hey, I found something that I might think you're interested in a way, like Patrick said, it's just you be nice with it, and just offer it to them. They can only say no, but a lot of times they may say no the first time, but I know a little bit later they'll go look, and then they may
Hmm.
say, well, it may be a year or 6 months, but they may come back to it. And so just be able and be open to being able to share the information here that we've learned today from Patrick. And Patrick, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. It's truly been a blessing having you on to be able to talk about some issues that men deal with. And I know that
Hmm.
those that are listening, they will find out even more information on the website, especially the free resources. Check out those free resources and begin to plug in, and you'll begin to see that there's a whole gamut of information and resources and help that is out there for you.
I appreciate you having me on. It's just about planting the seed. We just go around planting the seeds, and sometimes we never get to witness them blossom and grow, but they do. They eventually
Mm-hmm.
grow.
Mm-hmm. And that is so true. And I want to say one more thing, and just congratulations again on your sobriety and just
Thank you.
your recovery and just
Yeah.
the nurse practitioner and just helping everybody. That's what it's about. And so if you're
Yeah.
listening and you are struggling, the same things that Patrick has gone through, he's been able to make it through it. But he says, like we all do, we still have our struggles and things we go through, but start to put that energy into other things. Start to do what you love, find those things that can support you in your process of moving forward. And so again, thank you, Patrick, for being a part of the podcast today.
Thank you again for having me.
Yes, and listeners, we thank you for being a part today. And until next time, God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Tasty Tidbits. If you're enjoying the show, feel free to subscribe, rate, and share with your friends. To learn more about Dr. Tiffany, check her out on Linktree at dr.tiffanywatkins or visit her website, iridescencebytiffany.com. Until next time, stay blessed.